Hi, my name is Tyler Woodby. This is Task A for private pilots of MGA. So the first thing that you'll see on the ACS is certification requirements. This can come from 61103, and that's what these are, but for you, since you're a Part 141 student, it'll come from Part 141 Appendix B. So that's how you know if you're eligible to enroll and your ground and flight requirements. So for your requirements, you must be 16 years old, read, write, speak, understand English. You must have a knowledge test endorsement and a passing score, practical test endorsement, and the correct aeronautical experience. Okay, so the next section on the ACS is recency of flight. For you, your private pilot does not expire. What happens is it can lapse in currency. If that happens, you have to take a flight review within 24 calendar months. The minimum time for that is 1 hour ground and 1 hour flight. You cannot fail it, it is a sign off, okay? And so if you do technically fail, all that would happen is you come back and then that instructor or DPE would then sign you off. However, if you take a check ride, this takes the place of a flight review and the clock starts over. So if in a year you get your instrument, the clock starts over and then you have 2 years from getting that instrument rating, okay? So that's currency for you. So now we're going to talk about what currency you need to carry passengers. So to stay current to carry passengers, you need to do 3 takeoff and landings within the preceding 90 days for if it's daytime. If it's nighttime or tailwheel, you have to do 3 takeoff and landings with full stop and taxi back. Okay. The next section is record keeping. So when do you have to keep records? Is the question. So I know that most of you are trying to be professional pilots, so you will log all the time, but that's not the question. It's when do you have to log it? And when you have to log it is for currency purposes or pursuit of rating. And why that is if you have a passenger, you have to be able to show them that you do have 3 takeoff and landings within the last 90 days in your logbook. Or if you go on a check ride, you can't show up to your examiner and be like, oh, I promise I have the 40 hours necessary. So that is the answer to that question. All right, the next section is your privileges and limitations as a private pilot. Basically, your privileges are is you can fly as PIC now, pilot in command, okay? You can also get paid your pro rata share, which just means that you can split the expenses in half, and that's all that means. The limitations are found in 62113 and a whole other laundry list of sort of exceptions of when you can and can't fly. For your check ride purposes though, the buzzword they're looking for is pro rata share. And if they're gonna ask you, can you fly for a charity organization or go anywhere deeper than that, I would simply pull out the FAR aim and go to 62113 and cross-reference if you can or can't. Okay, for documents required for being a private pilot, you have to have your private pilot license on you, your ID, and your medical. And as a student pilot, the only difference is you have to have your logbook with you and your endorsements. And obviously you want a private pilot license, that'll be your student license. So next we're going to talk about the medical certificates and then we're going to come back to basic med, okay? So for the medical certificates, we have this chart, right? And it starts with under 40, over 40, okay? This is for first class, second class, third class, okay? So if I got my first class medical, and I'm under 40, if I got my first class medical 14 months ago, you can see that I would drop down to third class privileges. So I still have a first class medical, but it has third class privileges. That's the difference, okay? So if you're over 40, your first class is only good for 6 calendar months. And then your second class privileges are only good for 12 calendar months. And your third class is only good for 24 calendar months. And the way that they'll probably ask you is they will give you a date of when the person was born and a date of when they got that medical, and they'll ask you what type of medical it is. Whatever type they got, it will always be that type, but if it's past its privileges, it can change its privileges. Okay, now basic med. So basic med is basically a medical for people who do not qualify for medicals. The acronym that I use is 666-18250. Okay, so 6 seats, 6 passengers including yourself, which just means 1 person per seat, 6,000 pounds takeoff weight, 18,000 MSL, that's as high as you can go, and 250 knots, that's as fast as you can go. So these are your privileges and limitations for basic med. As long as you are within these, you can be PIC, but you cannot exceed these. So these are both your privileges and limitations. Also for basic med, every 48 calendar months, you have to visit an AME. Every 24 calendar months, you have to do the AOPA self-check, and you must hold a driver's license. All right, so to finish off task A, we'll come over to what is proficiency versus currency. So for example, I only need 3 night landings to be current, 3 night landings to full stop. But that doesn't mean I'm good at night landings. So I wouldn't take my family up with me at night. So proficiency means I'm good, currency means I'm legal. Okay? Flying unfamiliar aircraft or equipment. The examiner is going to ask you, because you can now be PIC of any single engine, like let's say an extra is on the field. Would you go solo that by yourself? The answer is no, regardless of what you would do, because you're not familiar with that aircraft. Or say you've never flown in a 6-pack before. You would want to get instruction on that 6-pack before you go into IFR if you get your instrument, okay? They'll also ask you about questions about maintaining VFR. So that will boil down to, let's say you're coming into Macon downtown and there is a cloud directly above Macon downtown blocking you from getting in. So what you will do is you will divert to the nearest airport so that you do not break into IMC conditions. All right, that's task A.